Today in the studio, we've got a very interesting guest. Most of us struggle with finding purpose. Most of us struggle with finding our calling because unfortunately we always associate our calling with either having a white collar as a priest, a bishop, or people that only serve God in church. But the truth of the matter is your calling is in what you're doing now. Now we have, and we've read a lot about Mother Teresa, Lady Diana, those people that have done so much in the world. But we always forget our own Mother Teresas among us, the people that sacrifice their whole future and their whole life to serve the elderly. In the studio today, we have Wanjiku Joyce Kairu, a very good friend of mine that I saw more than 13 years ago. She was a very top executive, a big honor that left everything behind. In simple terms, she is a woman that sold her Ferrari to become a monk. Joyce, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
It's very good to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's also very nice to see you again after all the 13 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And you see, I've kept my body thanks to you.
No, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes. It's exciting. It's very exciting. And I think what I touched on earlier, a lot of people are suffering from purposelessness.
Right.
People are struggling with finding their way in life. And you're one of the few people, and I remember clearly when you left, I'm one of those people that thought you mad to walk away from such a well-cushioned, a well-paying, very comfortable life to go into the unknown and to even make it worse, to go into a village with no source of income and then dedicate your whole life to people that you haven't met in a very long time. So tell us how this came about.
First is that the way I started Purity, I started an organization which is called Purity Care Foundation. But before that is that my mother was ill for a long time. She had cancer of the colon. And during the period in 2008, I knew it had metastasized. It was in stage 4. And, you know, that entire period, I was so stressed about her sickness, but I didn't do anything about it. I just sent money. She had money. She was a wealthy woman. So, and yeah, so I didn't go home to, you know, to take care of her. So it is in 2009 when I went home, visited my mom in hospital, and we had a discussion in 2010 after surgery, and she and I discussed, and she told me she had 6 months to live. And we had this whole day, the two of us, discussing a lot of things, but it never hit me that I needed to stay with her for the period of, you know, for the entire period of the 6 months that she was sick. So it was 6 months later, after the January of 2010, I went back home, spent time with my mom in her, you know, her last days, which was 4 days, and I had promised and had made sure that she would wish me happy birthday before her death, because I'm not the carrier of death or doom, but already there was that sign that she's not going to live long. And yeah, she passed on June 3, and it was amid of you know, the Soccer World Cup in South Africa. So I came back after laying her to rest. Came back to South Africa, and there was that I was hosting. I live in Rivonia, and so it was busy. It was hectic after laying her to rest. But one day when I was watching soccer at Loftus in Pretoria, it was midnight. A voice told me, "You have time to watch football, and you did not have time to take care of your mother." And that thing started hitting me, you know, slowly, gradually. That is now 2010. And yeah, so, and it happened like that. So I started thinking about now, is it my mother who is asking me to take care of the elderly? Or is it a calling that I have, you know, that really I need to tell people to take care of their own? So that's how it started. But, you know, slowly by slowly, I started realizing it was not now about being in South Africa. It was me serving the elderly, or creating awareness or being a champion of older persons in my own home because of the social fabric which has really altered a lot of things. People are traveling, the globalization, urbanization. So those are things that really disturbed me. So I started writing concepts on, taking care of the elderly. I tried to do things here, going to Rivera to check on the elderly, Soweto, Alexandra. But yeah, it started like that. But it became even tougher as I was jogging on just here, 12th Avenue, and this woman or this girl was hit by a car, and she died on the spot. That is after my mom's death and after now being disturbed, writing concepts and not even thinking. And she died on the spot. Then when I got back home at my Rivonia apartment, a voice asked me, and I know it's a voice of God, if it was you who was hit by that car, have you done what it is I've called you to do? And I was like, oh my goodness, it is the elderly. And that's where it all started.
Now, I mean, that's a very interesting story. But most people will always be very stuck.
Yeah.
I've heard and I've spoken to people that have the calling, but the moving forward is always the hardest part.
Yeah.
So how did you decide just to pack everything and go? How did that happen?
At the time, I worked for an international IT company, and I was seconded to a bank here in South Africa. It was not easy because I was a regional project manager. So, and I was projecting and doing so many things for the bank with, a huge team from different subcontractors and outsourced institutions. After writing so much, after having sleepless nights, going to the gym and looking at people at the gym, and I remember I know you remember Ronnie, who died at the gym, and I looked at his age at the time, the way he used to work out, and it was now that time when I went back to my office, and I called my boss and I told him, Mark, I'm not going to work anymore. I want to go back to Kenya. I want to go and take care of the elderly. And he was like, you're crazy, Joyce. You need to actually help us even do more. And I told him, I will do what I have to do. I'll give you a projection. Allow me to prepare to go back to Kenya because I am not going to stay in South Africa. I have a purpose. I want to go and work. I talked to my dad who was like, you come, but he didn't mean it. He really didn't mean it. He was just like, so, yeah, and going back to Kenya was not easy, but I just decided the best thing to do was to do a proper projection for the company before departing for Kenya. So I gave them a 6 months projection. I took time, like 4 months, and I did not even, I asked my cousin Mwangi to help me register an NGO in Kenya. Instead, he went to a society, but he did not understand what it is that I wanted. So I packed my bags, put everything in order, and I decided I'm going back home. It was not the easiest thing, but it was the best thing that I felt. Packing my things, put them in, whatever had to be shipped to Kenya was shipped, and I really didn't even think I wanted anything. My cars, everything, I really didn't want anything. It was time to where I said, I am not going to live for these things of the earth. I'm going to serve the purpose. The other thing that I must admit and I must say that I appreciate, first, my education, where my parents did educate me. The second thing is that I had a foundation with my church, Rivers Church. Rivers Church, the principles, the teachings, the foundation really did actually help a lot. So I truly do wish to thank the Rivers team, the Rivers pastors, Pastor Andre and Olivia, and the team, and for that foundation that they put in me, and also my parents a lot, because I think I was that person until I came to this flamboyant life in South Africa.
The revelation for you, if I had to thread everything together, God was talking to you through death. The death of your mother. You saw that girl being hit on Rivonia Road, and then all of a sudden, you go to the gym, you find the fittest person in the gym collapses and dies. And that showed you the shortness of physical life.
Yes.
Yeah? So the thing that we fear most is the thing that gave you life.
Yes, death.
So you had to die to yourself, which is, because most of us physical people that we are in the gym, unfortunately, it reaches a point where we start to worship our bodies. it reaches a point where our physical prowessness, our physical strength, becomes more the false god that we serve. So that you had to be shown how easy that can be taken away and how little time you have before you can fulfill your purpose.
That's right.
Now, we've gone through that now. You've made this decision. You've moved into Kenya, and everything in Kenya is very, very hard. Now,
Yes.
how did you take the first step? How did you find the first old person to look after?
The
Is it
first,
your father?
I think may he so rest in peace. His name is Haman Cairo, and the first thing that I did is that I went home to my dad and I told him this is what I wanted to do, and he first thought I was out of my mind. He thought I was crazy. He was annoyed with me. He was like, "What are you driving?" You know, in the past I would drive, car hires from the airport to home, and in the village. I'm from Nyeri County, small town Muiga. And yes, my dad was the first old person that I met. But then my first test was like, I tried Korogosho in Nairobi. Then God told me, I don't want you in Nairobi. I want you to go back to the village.
Korogosho, just
Korogosho,
for people's sake, it's like Alexandria here.
exactly. Yeah. And there was, it was filthy. And imagine now coming from South Africa to go to
From the
filthy where
suburbs.
from the suburbs, and Rivonia, of course, Anton. So, and it didn't work out. So I went back home where now it was a rainy season. So I had to buy gumboots to be able to go and visit the elderly. The first elderly person that I was driven to by God was an elderly woman, and I think I'll share the photos with, and she had maggots on her body. She lived in a room, a shabby room, and very sick, lonely, blind, and that was my first case. And it was a first case where I knew this is what I was called to do. That first case of Theresa.
Did you feel relieved? Did you feel content when you saw that first woman and you knew this is what I've been called to do?
Yes, I felt this is what I was called to do because
And how did you find this woman?
I had the community health volunteers and community health workers. So what I did when I went back to Kenya, I sat with the chiefs, with the Ministry of Interior and Coordination, where I requested if I could work with the community health volunteers in the area. And that was very important because you can't not just go to a home and start working with them, without, letting the area or we call them Nyumbakumi elders, or the local elders, so that they identified the woman. They told me about that woman. She was a Catholic. And what happened is that people would take food to her, place it on the table, and expect her to eat, and she could not. So the first thing I did was to try and feed her. But she told me, no, the best thing you can do now, you have come to save me, just bring me bananas. And every day I took her a banana. My dad was very upset because I went to our home and I stole, is it stealing? He knew I took, it's not stealing. I took some blankets, some beddings, went and with now the ladies at the village, we cleaned her bed, fixed where she was sleeping. Then I got a local clinician to just help us with painkillers and stuff, so that and she died 16 days after my intervention.
16?
16 days
Okay.
after my intervention.
So she was very bad.
She was very bad.
Critically.
Maggots were coming out from her body. The hips had maggots. They had dug a hole, put a hole on her bed where she would, use it as a toilet and a bucket.
Oh, okay.
And so she was really neglected and abandoned, and because she didn't have children, and the stigma with the as blacks, when one does not have children, you're stigmatized. I thank God. I hope they will not stigmatize me for not having one, because I have a purpose. I'm living a purpose-driven life for taking. That's what God called me to do. So that stigma. So she was like a community.
She was
an
pariah.
outcast.
Yeah. Now, but how do we end up here? Because I remember very well, I also grew up in the village, and we valued life.
Yeah.
We took care of the old, and the old took care of the young, and it was a cycle.
Yeah.
Where do you think we lost these values? How do we get somebody like that in a community full of people dying on our own? What happened?
I think we've become a world, or a society full of selfishness. We're selfish. It's a me, me, me world. It's a society that the social fabric has really altered so many things. Religion has also, interfered in so many things as well. I am not saying religion is bad. Spirituality is what is very important. But the social fabric, and also, okay, at the time, I'll not blame technology because that's a village. But I'll also say now today I look at technology being one of those things. We have in Kenya where or even in the world now we have the money transfer, where a lot of people will just transfer money to their elderly, to the parents, without thinking about how is that person living. So we are not a people-focused or humanity. We have lacked humanity in us. We have lacked humility as well, and even according dignity to each other has become a real huge thing. So to me, as far as I'm concerned, is that lack of humility, because it be a selfish world. If you look at the politics globally and what's happening to Ukraine and other parts of the world, it's about a me world. It's not about a human being world. So we don't serve others. It's a me, me, me world. That's why you find I was, driving big cars, flying all over to go and watch rugby. It was a me world. It is no longer a me world, as far as I'm concerned. But that is a concern as far as the society is concerned.
Now, just to add on that and also asking you a way forward, one thing that you've clarified there and one thing that you've made very clear is that we are a world full of beings but no humans.
Yes.
We've lost our humanness. We're just beings. You see people that look like human beings, but it's become very hard to find human beings. Now, we are caught in between modernization and tradition. And the meaning of tradition here means, if you look at tradition, it simply comes from your word trade. It's trading the past for the future or the future for the past. What are some of the traditions that we have to carry forward to carry our humanity, but at the same time embrace the modern lifestyle? In terms of what you're doing now, you being on the ground, how do you balance the two?
First is that you have to be humble. Whatever it is that you do, is that you have to be humble. And first, you have to also appreciate that whatever. Now, what I do, let me first go back. I have a lot of favor, unprecedented favor, God's favor, and the acceptance by the elderly to serve them, the acceptance by the families, by the society to serve them. It is because of that favor, because of humility. Once you have humility and you accord each and every individual, young, old, rich, poor, you accord them dignity, then that's the most important thing. And that's why I work with 3 words: humanity, humility, and dignity. And I got HHD.
How did you get to those 3 beautiful words?
I got the 3 beautiful words. I was just observing how people live. Then I was like, I am dealing with humanity. And with a lot of humility, it is what has helped me do it. Dignity is what you accord each and every person that you come across. And when you see the elderly, I do hold a lot of events for the elderly, and they come. Just a good example. I had a party for the elderly on the 31st of December of 2011, and my dad told me it was not going to happen. He actually told me openly that don't stop coming to Kenya. Go back to your other world, to your huge world, and the elderly will not come. They came. They came like 190 of them. But when I saw them together, dancing, partying, and I was like, this is just what they need to be accorded dignity. You bump into each other and they would ask, hey, you got old, and the person who's saying they had not seen each other for 40 years. So they're insulting each other, hey, you're still alive, that kind of thing. So that's the dignity that you needed to accord them. So that I was humbled by that 1st of January. And then, so going forward, I started doing more parties. I had 4 annual parties, parties in the year. And when you see them, you find dignity. They come clean. They shower or they take baths. They come very clean. So already that dignity is actually instilled in them. So the 3 words came from, now I'm serving humanity. You have to be humble, from the world that I've come from. I don't think very many people who have come from the world that I came from, and you know it, would be humble to actually do the things that we do with my team, because now I don't work alone. I have a team we work with. So yeah, it's about humanity, humility, and dignity.
Oh, beautiful. Bless your heart. I need you to look straight into that camera. And whoever is listening to you, especially most of us men, or most of us people that live in the city and think just sending money to our parents is more than enough.
Yeah.
What are the struggles that the elderly, especially our parents, go through?
I would want to say that the first main struggle the elderly go through, our parents go through, is loneliness. That can be brought up by so many other things. There is disease, there is poverty, there is stigma, there is abuse. And abuse, we are talking in so many ways. It doesn't have to be abuse, insults. It could be inheritance abuse. It could be, especially as in my community, the Kikuyu, we abuse our parents. We also have, because of inheritance, we have the issue of substance abuse, where children forget their parents, and they just think they're going to just enjoy their alcohol, their abuse, and all sorts of things. So it all comes down to loneliness, and that leads to a lot of depression. So the main thing is depression kills our elderly because they are lonely. We don't visit them. We don't talk to them. We send money thanks to the money transactions that happen. So I think you living in the urban areas, like I did, gallivanting, being flamboyant, doing all sorts of things, it is important to also remind you that you will get old too. Apart from aging, something else that is likely to happen, you can be incapacitated in one way or another, and you will need help. So respect and love your elderly people, because one day you will need what they need to be given, to be accorded dignity with humility. Very important to be humble. You may have a lot of money, but things of the world will not help you. It is you and your soul that will help you.
That is great. Now, Wanjiku, one last thing. How can the people listening to you help you? We will put your details at the bottom of this video, but what are the things that you need help with at this point that will make it easy for you to fulfill your purpose more?
A lot of things. Now I'm going back to Kenya. I know it's a cold season, so we do a lot of in our republic, and you agree with me. We use firewood a lot. So we do actually look for firewood, transport to carry firewood, matchboxes, lighters to help with the blankets. We need blankets. We need a lot of adult diapers to help the elderly who do not have that kind of support. So I will say that we need a lot of support. We need transport. We need food. Dry foods, that we need to be able to deliver to the elderly. We need to help the team that we work with to be able to deliver. In Kenya, we use a lot of bodabodas and motorbikes. So those are the things that we need. We would like at some point, by God's grace, to put up a home for the elderly, because I think there's that need. I would not want to be neglected, because I can see that this is going to happen. The urbanization is going to actually bring a lot of elderly, as our generation is going to need to be in homes. So we do need a lot of help. We need money to do a lot of things. I thank God that I traveled to South Africa to come to a wedding, which was facilitated for. But had they not facilitated, I'd have used that money to go and help the elderly. But even adult diapers, those are things that we need. We need detergents. We need the likes of face masks for, we get sick. Like I was sick the other day. I have contracted TB. I don't know if I mentioned to you earlier. Because of this work, we need gloves to be able to attend to the elderly. And we need to help even the community volunteers to support. Also, families that are poor, willing to support their own, do need help. So whatever kind of support we would really appreciate, so that we can serve more people with humility and accord them dignity.
You've heard it from Wanjiku herself. Remember, life is a cycle. Today you're strong, tomorrow you're weak. Today you're young, tomorrow you're old. And you can always tell the values of a society by the way it treats the discarded old people. How you treat your parents, unfortunately, will determine how you end up.
Stigma.
The scriptures clearly tell us that honor thy father and mother, and your days on this earth shall be long. Now remember, it doesn't say that you love them, but you have to honor them. And let's not confuse fathers, mothers, and parents. Parents are somebody that is brought you up, and a father and mother is your biological parent that is brought you into this world. So we have to make sure that we are looking after these people, because in the end, this becomes the only command in the Bible that comes with a promise. Hope to catch you soon, and remember, as she says, it's the basic things that we need on a day-to-day basis that he is struggling with. Look around in your house. There's so many things that you don't need, but it might save somebody's life. God bless. Remember, I love you, and always stay blessed.